Welcome back to Life Unrehearsed. Matt Delvecchio here, specializing in home care and the senior living industry. Happy Mother's Day as we play Little Mama from Spice Girls. Didn't even know that song existed. Nice little tune for all the moms out there. And really wish a happy Mother's Day to all the wonderful mothers out there, including my next guest, Julie Quenneville. You know, I met Julie several years ago at her office when she was the head of the MUHC Foundation. Such an inspiring person. And Julie began her career as a journalist, actually, before transitioning to a decorated career in the healthcare sector. She served as Associate Chief of Staff to the Quebec Minister of Health before joining McGill University Health Centre, that's the MUHC, where she worked in a number of roles before becoming CEO of MUHC Foundation in 2015. And in 2023, Julie became CEO of the UHN Foundation based in Toronto, where she joined the #1 hospital in Canada in its mission to change the status quo of healthcare. And we're going to hear about that from Julie, as she really is making a difference. She's been named one of Canada's most powerful women, one of Concordia University's top 50 under 50, winner of the Woman We Admire Award in 2023, and receiving the Medal of the Quebec National Assembly. She has served as the chair of the Banff Forum and is a member of the executive committee of the 2024 President's Cup. Now, putting all that impressive bio aside, I know Julie, and her priority above and beyond all of that is being a mom to her two wonderful children. And how apropos to have Julie as my guest on our Mother's Day special here on Life Unrehearsed. Julie, welcome back to Life Unrehearsed.
Matt, thank you so much for the invitation.
Well, so glad you can do this. I know it's a busy day for you, and I really appreciate you taking a little time. We haven't talked for a while, and I know a lot of listeners know you from all the wonderful things you've done with the MUHC Foundation. So first of all, happy Mother's Day. And let's hear about your kids. I believe you have two children, right? Victoria and Noah, is that correct?
Exactly. Victoria, 17, and Noah is now 14. And as you said, Matt, they have always been my top priority and will always remain. And I do think about it every day, about what I can do to make sure that they are more resilient than I am, stronger than I am, and hopefully more successful than I am. So everything that I do each and every day is hopefully to help push them along the way, and so that I can see the great success that they will have in the future in contribution to society.
Well, you have been so supportive. And I don't know how you do it, Julie, but, you know, quite honestly, you've got a heavy workload, and I'm sure you look at it as many moms across this country have a heavy workload, but you've always put the importance of being present and a loving mom as your priority, hasn't it?
It has been. And, you know, Jean Charest, who's always been a mentor and an exceptional leader, said to me once, you know, it's okay that you're not home all the time, but when you're home, be home. And I always remembered that, because it is true. We can't be home all the time. But at the same time, when I'm there, I try to put my phone aside and I try to focus on quality time with them and doing activities with them. And Matt, I think you know that too, is I've always tried to involve them in the work that I do. So they have been attending galas and events since they were babies. And that gives them an opportunity to see the impact of the community coming together. And that's really important. I've heard them say a few things in the last few weeks and months that have made me really proud, that all of these opportunities are beginning to pay off, and that they are not on the sidelines, you know, observing the world going by, that they are starting to get involved and be active and are really proactively getting involved in the community on their own, and that makes me so proud.
As it should. Listening to Life Unrehearsed, Matt Delvecchio here, and I'm talking to the CEO of the University Health Network. The UHN is the #1 hospital in Canada. It's Julie Quenneville. And Julie, I'm glad you mentioned that. You know, vulnerable years, talking about your children, 17 and 14 now. You make the big move from Montreal to Toronto down the 401, I guess a little 2 years ago now, started in 2023. So I was going to ask you how they've been adapting, because I'm sure it's not easy at this age.
No, none of these big changes are easy, especially not in the beginning. Victoria is finishing high school this year, and she's actually going off directly to university at University of Ottawa. So I'm so incredibly proud of her for having that kind of courage. And they have matured a lot in the last year. They have, they contribute to the house and to making dinner, and have become much more independent. You know, one of the comments a young woman told me once when I was giving a conference on women in business, and she said, well, you know, it's easy for you. it's not easy for me to balance motherhood and work. And that really made me react, because it's actually really difficult for everyone. And on this Mother's Day, I think it's essential for all of us to recognize just how difficult it is from beginning to end, when they're little, even when they're older. And that acknowledgement is important to encourage other women to do it. You have to look around. You have to look at all of the things that you need to get done, figure out what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy, and ask for help. It takes a community to raise children. So it's unacceptable to expect women to be able to be CEOs, make dinner every night, clean the house, do all of the things that are expected of mothers, and take care of the kids. It's just not physically possible. There are so many hours in a day. And so my advice to all of these women who are considering taking a step back in their careers so that they can take care of their kids, it's a really important moment in a woman's life, is to look around and see where you can find some help and some support to be able to do everything that you do and contribute to society in the most efficient way. Because if you do take that step back at that important time in your career, you are never going to be a CEO. And that's the truth of it.
Mm-hmm. Talking with Julie Quenneville, CEO of the UHN, number one hospital in Canada, past MUHC Foundation president and CEO. So great words of advice, Julie, and I think a lot of mothers can resonate and understand what you're saying. Of course, it's easier said than done for many, many people, but what I'd like to do, Julie, is for those of us here in Montreal that might not be familiar with the University Health Network, better known as the UHN, can you tell us a little bit about this gem we have in the country and the world, quite frankly?
It is the number 3 hospital in the world, but it's actually the number 1 publicly funded hospital in the world. And so it's an incredible institution. We are so proud that Canada has produced such an incredible institution. And it really is a responsibility now to be able to continue to demonstrate that in a publicly funded model, we can be playing on the world stage and curing disease. So it's a very exciting. We have 20,000 staff located on 9 different sites. So hospitals that our listeners may have heard of: Toronto General, Toronto Western, Princess Margaret Hospital. And we have rehab, and we actually have an educational institute called the Michener Institute, training a number of healthcare professions.
It's just amazing. 20,000 staff, and those names that you've mentioned, many of them we have heard of and very, very popular. And we're going to hear a little bit more, Julie, about your role as CEO at the UHN. And we have to head out to traffic first, Julie, if you hang around. And I know there's a lot of listeners want to get the inside scoop on the President's Cup coming in September. For all those golfing fans out there, it is just an incredible organization that's going on behind the scenes, up to 1 billion viewers, if not more, worldwide, believe it or not, in our city will be showcased. And you are part of the President's Cup committee, so I'm going to be picking your brain a little bit, Julie, on that as well. And welcome back. You're listening to Life Unrehearsal, Aerosmith, and Dream On as we can dream and try to achieve our goals here. Thank you for tuning in, Matt Delvecchio, and we're celebrating Mother's Day with the inspirational Julie Quenneville, proud mom of 2 teenagers and CEO of the University Health Network, UHN Foundation, Canada's number 1 hospital. Julie, I want to go back to your daughter. Here she is. I just remember seeing posts about your daughter doing these little, your young little girl, and you're telling me she's off to university next year.
It goes by really fast, doesn't it?
Oh, my goodness. Well, congratulations to her, and I'm sure there's a little big heart for you. But as you say, you're, they're coming out of the nest, and you've got to let them fly free. And you've really been, as you mentioned prior to traffic when we went out, this has been a key responsibility as a mom, despite your heavy workload as the CEO of the UHN Foundation. And again, I'd like to hear a little bit more about your role in 2023. You were, at the time, the head of the MUHC Foundation as president and CEO. Must have been a tremendously difficult, emotional, big decision, but boy, oh boy, number one hospital in Canada, number 3 in the world, number 1 publicly funded at the UHN. So can you tell me your role with your team there, and how have things been going with your transition?
Yeah, Matt, you're absolutely right. It was a very difficult decision to make because the MUHC is the number one hospital in Quebec and an exceptional and essential institution. And the McGill brand shines brightly not only across Canada but the world. And I miss my team and all of the healthcare workers who I'd worked with for 20 years. But I would never have accepted to move to another province for any institution other than UHN. You know, the opportunity to be able to contribute to healthcare on the global stage was impossible to turn down. And our team is really there, as we were for the MUHC Foundation, to be able to raise the funds that are necessary to support innovation. You know, philanthropy is really the only source of funding for the proof of concept for research, for all those really big ideas that generate great research results. It's the only way that we can fund to be able to prove that those big ideas work, that then you can apply for government research grants. And so when you're thinking about a publicly funded healthcare model, you know, the governments are really responsible for providing quality healthcare across the board, but that's not good enough for us. We want excellence. We want to be able to be world leaders. We want the very best physicians and healthcare workers to be able to care for our loved ones, our parents, and our children. And the only way you can do that is if you are able to raise the funds necessary to be able to support the big dreams and big ideas of those great physicians and researchers. So that is our responsibility. We've just closed another really great year at about almost 238 million in revenue, and it is quite an honor and a unique opportunity and responsibility that we have.
Well, just incredible numbers, and you know, Canadians are benefactors of the efforts that you and your team are doing of researchers. You have mentioned, and I've talked about, changing the status quo of healthcare. And it's not just words, right? Like you say, governments could only do so much, and foundations like the UHN, everything that is being done in the research, we will all benefit because it is literally changing the status quo of healthcare, isn't it?
It is, and I'll give you a concrete example. So a few years back, a generous donor gave $3 million to one of our top transplant surgeons. And he wanted to find a way to stop losing so many organs. We were losing about 50% of the organs, and we already have an insufficient number for the number of patients waiting on waiting lists. And so this surgeon managed to take those dollars and create a machine to be able to keep the lungs breathing before we transplant them into the body. And the idea was to be able to reinforce that lung so that it would be healthier and stronger by the time we transplant. In fact, he was not only able to create such a machine, he was able to then figure out how to enhance the lungs. That machine is now being used for a number of other organs. We have now increased the number of successful lung transplant by more than 50%. Okay. The machine, the techniques are now being used absolutely everywhere around the world. And we're now creating similar machines for every other organ so that we can, again, have more people benefit from successful transplants. That's pretty concrete. A $3 million donation that has generated, you know, changes around the world and millions of dollars in research grants.
Very impressive. Very, very impressive and encouraging. Talking with Julie Quenneville, CEO of the UHN Foundation, number one hospital in Canada. Julie, I know you wear a lot of hats above and beyond the mom hat and UHN hat. One of them is being part of the President's Cup Committee. And it's coming up very quickly in September. In fact, September 24th to 29th, going to be hosted by the Royal Montreal Golf Club. This will be their second time they've hosted this very prestigious worldwide event seen by over 1 billion viewers, if not more than that. All right, Julie, what can you tell our listeners about the upcoming President's Cup?
We are so thrilled that Montreal was chosen for this global event. It is the best of the best golfers. It's the United States, the American team versus the world, and we have a number of Canadian players playing. But what's really important, as you said, Matt, is that this is more than $100 million in economic impact to our city. And it's also going to make our city shine on the world stage. And that's why I accepted to get involved, because I love to see Montreal shining on the world stage and for people to see just how strong and incredible this city is now. And I hope that our listeners are buying their tickets, because 2/3 of tickets are already sold out. There are a number of hospitality opportunities for corporate leaders who are listening, and general tickets as well. But this is a unique opportunity. The President's Cup is not likely to return to Montreal anytime soon, and because it has become so competitive on the global stage to be able to win this event. So please do join us and take part in this historic moment.
Historic indeed. For those that are the golfing fans that might have seen the 2007 President's Cup, wait until you see it this year. I was at Royal Montreal on Saturday, as a matter of fact. You would not believe the grandstands going up and the work going on already well into a year into it. Very, very impressive. And encourage the golfing fans to get your tickets. They're going to go quick. Julie, we're already out of time. I really want to thank you for coming in and on a very busy day for you, but on a Mother's Day special here in Life Unrehearsed, and how apropos to have you on the show, and I really appreciate your time.
Always a pleasure, Matt. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That's Julie Quenneville, CEO of the UHN Foundation, which is Canada's #1 hospital. Next week on Life Unrehearsed, getting your legal papers in order. I'm going to be talking to a prominent notary about the importance of wills, powers of attorney, protection mandates, and advanced medical directives. And are you constantly in pain, or is pain an issue? I know it's increasingly a problem as our population ages. Well, I'm going to be talking to a doctor specializing in pain management. And also, are you having difficulty sleeping? Well, you're not alone, as insomnia rates are increasing by incredible numbers. In fact, we're going to help try to get you more sleep, and that's going to be on next week's show. So thank you very much for tuning in to Life Unrehearsed. And as a reminder, for all your inquiries or assistance with life transitions, home care, and the senior living industry, but my pleasure to help. Find out more if you look up Lianas Senior Transition Support. That's Lianas, Lianas Senior Transition Support. Many thanks to Dimitra Kritidimas and Dario De Felice. Great job today. Superstar team set up. You can listen to Life Unrehearsed here on CJD 800 every Sunday at 4 p.m. And happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there.